And unfortunately, a lot of men have been doing retrograde ejaculation for months or even years, thinking that they're truly having non-ejaculatory orgasms when in fact they're just ejaculating into their bladders and urinating it out. Hey, what's up guys? I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can manifest your ideal life. If you want to learn more about sexual mastery, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified when I release new videos. Make sure you get my free ejaculation control course through the link in the video description below. So in this video, I'm going to explain the difference between retrograde ejaculation and true non-ejaculatory orgasms. So I get a lot of questions from guys, asking if they've truly had a non-ejaculatory orgasm. And what they'll usually describe is, okay, I hit the point of no return, but I squeezed my pelvic floor muscles really tight and nothing came out, but it felt like I had, a normal ejaculatory orgasm. So there is a distinct difference between having a true non-ejaculatory orgasm and having what's known as a retrograde ejaculation. And it can be difficult to discern between these in the beginning because with the retrograde ejaculation, no fluid comes out as you're ejaculating. But what happens in the retrograde ejaculation is that the semen, instead of moving out the urethra and ejaculating out, it's pushed into the bladder and then you urinate it out, right? So physiologically, what's happening during an ejaculation is that the ejaculation reflex is triggered and the sperm is pumped from the testicles and the epididymis through the vas deferens, the tubes, transporting them into first the prostate where it's mixed with the seminal fluid. And from there, the spasming of the pelvic floor muscles shoots the fluid, the sperm out of the prostate and through the penis. And if you look at an anatomical chart of the male sexual anatomy, you'll notice that from the prostate, there's an opening, not only through the urethra and out the penis, but also a tube that goes into the bladder because urine passes through the prostate as well. So if the urethra is blocked during an ejaculatory orgasm, the pumping of the prostate, which pushes the semen, pushes it right back into the bladder. And from what I understand in my own experience, there's nothing inherently dangerous about ejaculating internally into the bladder. But the thing is that you urinate afterwards, all the semen is lost. So it's basically exactly the same as ejaculating, except for you have the appearance of a dry orgasm. And then there's the true non-ejaculatory orgasm. And for men, there's actually many different types of non-ejaculatory orgasms. I recommend you watch some of my other videos on these topics to get a little more in-depth understanding of non-ejaculatory orgasms. But basically, with a true non-ejaculatory orgasm, there's nothing moving. The fluid, the sperm does not move. Therefore, it does not move into the bladder and you don't lose it, right? A non-ejaculatory orgasm is just a pure, there may be some physical spasming happening, but mostly it's an energetic experience where you have all of the pleasure, that heightened experience of an orgasm, but without losing your semen. So usually what guys are doing that causes them to have a retrograde ejaculation is, again, hitting the point of no return, going right through that point of no return, continuing stimulation so that the full-on ejaculation happens. And at this point, they'll either physically block the mechanism of the sperm traveling through the urethra with what's known as the $1 million point, which is a very crude technique that I don't particularly recommend, that traps the fluid within the prostate. And what often happens is that it moves into the bladder with a retrograde ejaculation. But the other very common thing that men do is, there's this very common technique that people teach to have non-ejaculatory orgasms where basically you hit the point of no return and you squeeze your pelvic floor. So this involves doing Kegels over a period of time to really develop the pelvic floor muscles. And then at the point of no return, the point at which you start to ejaculate, you squeeze those muscles as hard as you can to physically block that semen from moving through the urethra. But again, if you do not time this right, then all the physical mechanisms of ejaculation happen. The muscles spasm, the sperm starts to move, but instead of moving out the urethra, it moves into the bladder and then you urinate it out. So how do you know whether you've had a true non-ejaculatory orgasm or a retrograde ejaculation? It's very simple. Do you have a refractory period? Because this is what happens with a retrograde ejaculation is it feels pretty much exactly like an ejaculatory orgasm. Sometimes it's a bit less of a depletion, a bit less of that post-nut syndrome, right? But usually, yes, you will completely lose your erection, your penis will feel overly sensitive, and you have that short period of time where you're basically impotent, right? Which is the refractory period. If this occurs, then you know that you've not had a true non-ejaculatory orgasm. You have not had an internal orgasm. You've had a regular genital peak orgasm that releases, prolactin into the bloodstream, your testosterone lowers, and you have to recover. So this is not ideal for, becoming a multi-orgasmic man because you can't have these over and over again, and you lose a bit of energy with each one of these types of orgasms. So how do you avoid having the retrograde ejaculation? This comes with not going over the point of no return, basically. All of your work should be centered on avoiding hitting that point of no return, avoiding going beyond the point of no return. There is a technique, I've taught this in another video, where basically you just get up to that point of no return and then completely stop all stimulation and relax. And what happens here is that the orgasm will start, but the ejaculation trigger does not happen, right? So you have a non-ejaculatory orgasm. But the more internal methods where you're directing energy upwards, directing that orgasm upwards through the microcosmic orbit, directing it upward to experience the orgasm in the rest of the body, is instead of allowing this sexual charge to build up to the point to where it explodes in an ejaculatory orgasm, you're constantly bringing that sexual energy upwards. You're constantly dissipating that nervous system charge upwards in the body. Because what happens is, as you become aroused, all this sexual pressure builds up in the genitals. And in fact, the sperm is starting to move into the prostate. The prostate starts to expand. Once it reaches its maximum expansion, a maximum level of tension, we could say there's no choice but to have the ejaculatory reflex triggered, right? But if instead you're slowing down this process of sexual pressure building by breathing deeply, keeping the body relaxed, even massaging your genitals a bit, directing that sexual energy upwards in the body, then you will not hit the point of no return. The ejaculation reflex will not be triggered, and you will not have this peak orgasm, whether it's a retrograde ejaculation or a full-on ejaculatory orgasm. And unfortunately, a lot of men have been doing retrograde ejaculation for months or even years, thinking that they're truly having non-ejaculatory orgasms, when in fact they're just ejaculating into their bladders and urinating it out. So if you have been experiencing retrograde ejaculation, don't worry. It's not necessarily harmful, but it's definitely not ideal. You'll want to learn the techniques to have true non-ejaculatory orgasms, because when you have a true non-ejaculatory orgasm, there's no refractory period, there's no loss in energy. You can keep having sex and stay hard for as long as you want. So if you want to learn more about having non-ejaculatory orgasms, check out my whole playlist I have called Non-Ejaculatory Orgasms. And if you really want to go in depth in sexual kung fu training to master your body, your mind, so that you can have sex for hours without ejaculating, have non-ejaculatory orgasms, open up your body to hold more arousal, more sexual power without ejaculating, check out my 12-week course, Multi-Orgasmic Man. I'll put more information in the description of this video. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment below. Have a great day, my friends.